This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR and racing podcast. Talladega. NASCAR would be making their first trip of the season to Alabama for some superspeedway racing at Dega. ARCA would kick things off first on track. Can Gio Ruggiero keep his hot streak alive? Or will Gus Dean, Andy Jankowiak, or Jake Finch stop him? Plus, look out for Cletus McFarland and Squirrel McNutt. O'Reilly Series would be in action as well. Can anybody stop the RCR cars of Austin Hill and Jesse Love on the superspeedways? Then, of course, Cup Series. Can Tyler Reddick keep his tear going and collect his 6th win of the season? Or will another past Dega winner, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, or Ryan Blaney steal the trophy? Yellow flag, green flag, discussions with Dave, paint scheme of the week, NASCAR history time, interview with Talladega winner Andy Jankowiak, Fast Davies bets, predictions for Texas, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for the ARCA Series recap. ARCA would be the first race of the weekend, starting just before noon local time. Last week's winner from Kansas, Gio Ruggiero, would win the pole and be followed by Jake Bowman in the 20. The pair bring the field to green. Ruggiero clears and leads early. First yellow flies on lap 30 as Allie Owens spins through the tri-oval and hits the wall. This would lead into a controlled pit stop. Ruggiero and Thomas Annunziata restart up front. Again, Gio leads as Cletus McFarland moves up to second. Can he shake and bake to the top spot? Another yellow flies with 36 laps to go. Ruggiero and McFarland restart with 30 to go. They go door to door for a lap until Gio pulls out to the top spot. But a lap later, a big push by Daniel Dye, Cletus McFarland is leading at Dega. Yellow for debris with 26 to go. Cletus and Ruggiero restart with 22 to go. McFarland leads, but they would keep wrecking. Incidents on lap 19 and on lap 7 where Thomas Annunziata gets spun, taking out several cars towards the front. They restart with 1 lap to go. Isabella Robusto and Gio Ruggiero bring the field to green. Will Kimmel and Cletus McFarland on the second row. Who would be ready to score the win in Dega? Out of turn 2, Robusto leads in the inside. Outside lane, Cletus and Andy Jankowiak start to build momentum. In turn 3, Gus Dean and Kimmel pass Isabella Robusto as McFarland makes it 3 wide with Jankowiak pushing behind him. Going through the tri-oval for the final time, Cletus comes down on the track to block Gus Dean on the inside. That would leave the door open for Andy J. They drag race 3 wide to the finish line. Andy Jankowiak edges out Cletus McFarland and Gus Dean in Talladega to get his first ever ARCA Series win. Congrats to Andy and everyone at Kloss Motorsports. Well deserved and well earned. More on Andy later in the show on discussions with Dave and the interview with him. Have had him on the show several times before, specifically when he was racing at the Turkey Derby and in the indoor stuff. With him being a guy from the Northeast like myself, super happy to see Andy get a win at the ARCA national level. Now for trivia question time. This episode's question is, who was the first driver to get their first win and only win at Talladega. Hint, it was in the inaugural race in 1969, the Talladega 500, and he never won again in the sport. Answer coming at the end. Now for the O'Reilly Series recap from Talladega. O'Reilly Series will be ready to go late Saturday afternoon after ARCA. Would they be able to top that race's excitement? They would sure try. Qualifying, no surprise. Richard Childress Racing car of Jesse Love on the pole, followed by Sam Mayer. The two take the field to green, but yellow on lap 1 as Dr. Patrick Staropoli gets spun. Love and Corey Day restart. Jesse Love, Carson Kvapil, and Sam Mayer each take turns leading in stage 1. End of the stage, Kvapil is able to edge it out and wins the first stage. Kvapil and Harrison Burton restart for the second stage. It goes entirely green, with Carson Kvapil, Jesse Love, Sammy Smith, and then Justin Allgaier each taking turns at the top spot. Justin Allgaier would win stage 2. Taylor Gray and Jeb Burton restart for the third and final stage. Gray clears and leads. Austin Green surges past Gray and clears for the lead on lap 63. Next round of green flag pit stops starts on lap 70. After the cycle, pole winner and last year's champ, Jesse Love would cycle back to the top spot. Love would still be leading with 15 to go. Sam Mayer gets a push from Parker Redsloff and goes spinning from the second spot. Race still stays green. 5 to go. Jesse Love gets shuffled as Sheldon Creed and Jeb Burton get past him. Creed leads. 3 to go. Corey Day gets the second. Next lap, they're 3 wide. Final lap, Corey Day and Sam Mayer clear Creed for the lead off of turn 2. End of the backstretch, Mayer gets spun, taking out Jeb Burton and several others. Yellow flies. Corey Day up front is declared the winner and wins his first ever O'Reilly Series race. Congratulations to Corey. Now the big one for all the marbles, the Cup Series recap. Cup Series would get going from Talladega Sunday afternoon, just after 3 p.m. 40 drivers would be ready to put it all on the line for 500 miles. Practice and qualifying would be rained out. Based on the metric, Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson bring the field to green. Denny Hamlin quickly takes the top spot and leads. They go 3 wide with Chase Briscoe and Chad Fincham each taking turns leading. They eventually go to single file with Hamlin again leading. First pit cycle starts on lap 41 as Ty Dillon comes to pit first. The leaders come a lap later. Denny Hamlin gets a pit road penalty for speeding. Once the cycle is complete, Ty Gibbs is up front and leads. The second pit cycle starts on about 30 to go in the first stage. As we talked last episode, the stage lengths for Talladega were different to prevent fuel saving late in the race. On Sunday, the Cup race, the first stage was the longest stage. Stage 2 and Stage 3 were just 45 laps long. Christopher Bell takes the lead. Him and the Toyotas then pit. Ryan Preece leads the group of Fords in the front spot. Would the Fords have enough fuel for the rest of the first stage? Yes, they would, and Ryan Preece wins Stage 1, followed by Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. Bubba Wallace and Ross Chastain restart for the middle stage. Logano gets a run and leads as the pack goes 3 wide behind him. Joey falls as Bubba takes over leading. A lap later, with 74 to go, the big one would happen. Bubba gets too much of a push by Ross Chastain, sending Bubba sideways into the field, triggering a massive crash. A classic big one at Dega. This time collecting 26 cars in total. Insane! Christopher Bell and Ross Chastain restart. After several laps side by side, another yellow flies as Ty Gibbs has a tire go down. The same pair of Bell and Chastain restart again. They go side by side. For the rest of the stage, Ross is able to edge it out over Bell and Buescher and win stage 2. Who would be ready to take the win? Would there be another wreck or two? Carson Hocevar and Chris Buescher restart for the third and final stage. Again, they race side by side. Hocevar and Buescher, door to door, not giving an inch. 28 to go, Tyler Reddick has a tire go down, bringing out the yellow. Hocevar and Buescher restart. The two continue to battle side by side. After being towards the front of the pack as well, Erik Jones spins after contact with Hocevar. Yellow on lap 182. Again, Buescher and Hocevar restart, this time with 3 to go. Could they go 3 laps, or would we see overtime? 2 to go. Carson clears for the lead, entering turn 3, as Buescher and Bowman battle for second. Final lap, Austin Dillon, Christopher Bell, Cody Ware, and Shane Van Gisbergen all wreck. Carson Hocevar still leads and takes the checkered flag. Carson Hocevar is a winner at the Cup Series for the first time. And what a celebration. He burned it down, riding like Dale on the side of that car. Simply awesome and truly Talladega. What a win and celebration for Carson. Look back at the predictions we made for Dega. ARCA tapped Jake Finch. He finishes 12th. O'Reilly went with Austin Hill. He finishes 13th. Cup, I picked Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Tricky Ricky brings it home 6th. Yellow flag, green flag. ARCA, green flag. Andy J. What a finish and what a win. O'Reilly, yellow. The field, 2 weeks in a row. There's a wreck on lap 1. Hoping everyone can settle down early in these races moving forward. O'Reilly, green. Give it to Corey Day. Steals the thunder at the end, giving himself his first O'Reilly win. The first of multiple for this year, I believe. Cup Series yellow. Not a knock on Bubba, just towards Toyota. Bubba admitted that the Toyotas need to be a little bit designed better so they can handle the push better. We saw that when Wallace got wrecked out, causing that big one. Also, that spit at the end involving Erik Jones, another Toyota. Cup Series green, the third first-time winner of the weekend, and it was Hurricane Hocevar. And as I just mentioned in the recap, what a celebration. Now for discussions with Dave. Part 1. ARCA, what a finish. First race of the weekend was ARCA at Talladega, and that one did not disappoint. As we mentioned in the recap, 1 lap shootout to the finish, resulting in a 3-wide finish. Andy J, Gus Dean, and Cletus McFarland drag racing to the start-finish line going through the tri-oval. Only if you've been a NASCAR fan under a rock this year, we have been talking about Cletus McFarland and his climb through the sport. Unfortunately, NASCAR did not approve him to run the O'Reilly race at Talladega with RCR, but heck, he was back in the ARCA seat. And guess what? He's leading laps towards the end of this thing. And I think everyone gave a, hell yeah, brother. Say what you want to say about Cletus's experience level and driving ability. He got his ARCA car to the front of that field, stayed there, competed for a win, and believe he silenced a lot of his doubters. Some follow ARCA more than others. Really cool to see longtime ARCA driver and guy's family who's been in the sport for a long time. Will Kimmel in that 69. Him and Gus Dean were really working at it. As a race fan, really neat to see that car. Towards the end of these races, we saw Will grab the pole last year in Charlotte, but had an engine go out early in that one. Now to the winner, Andy J. If you're a regular listener of the show and a fan of asphalt racing in the Northeast, the last name Jankowiak is someone that you heard about. I've had Andy almost a half dozen times on the show now between Daytona ARCA tests, indoor racing, Allentown and Atlantic City, Turkey Derby, small track, super speedway. Andy J is always going to be there. Andy J, along with Class Motorsports, just like any small team in the sport, they work their tails off. Knowing the effort and the heart that Andy and everyone at that team has, seeing them finally break through in victory lane, was just so genuinely happy for Andy and everyone on that team. As mentioned, we bring Andy on later in the show. Stay tuned for that one. Moving right along, thoughts from the O'Reilly Series race. 2 weeks in a row, I said it on yellow flag, green flag. Can we just start a race and get some green flag laps down, guys? I get it, everyone's pushing, and especially on 2 back-to-back drafting tracks. Yes, Kansas is an intermediate, but guys are still learning the drafting. Fortunately, Carson Kvapil tumbles down in the beginning in Kansas, and then Dr. Patrick Star-Poli is the beneficiary, the unbeneficiary in Talladega. Nonetheless, the final portion of that race was extremely exciting. Really thought Jesse Love was going to keep it up front and go on to win. You see Austin Green, Sheldon Creed taking turns at the lead. Then eventually we see the 17 of Corey Day go on to win that one. Just like when we had Corey on the show a couple weeks ago, and as I've said before, definitely think he's going to get multiple wins on the O'Reilly Series this year. I did not think his first one was going to be at Talladega. He even said that post-race. But that's why super speedway racing can be so unpredictable and exciting. Now, thoughts on the Cup Series race. The big one happened early in Stage 2. With the stage lengths being changed for Talladega, Stage 1 stays completely green. Definitely could see the guys wanting to get some green flag laps done on that one, and saw some gas savings. Some had to double pit. Some are able to stretch it out to just one stop, as we saw with the Fords up at front late in the first stage. When the green flag dropped for Stage 2, that intensity meter just got ratcheted up 100%. 3 wide, Bubba's at the front there. Didn't think it was anything malicious by Ross, by all means, but the wreck does collect 26 cars in total. Pack was for sure a little bit smaller after that one. Would the race have had a different outcome if there was, another half dozen, maybe 8 extra cars? Can Ricky Stenhouse get energy on that outside lane late, where that just didn't happen at the end on Sunday, and no one was able to compete with the energy and momentum that Hocevar had? In the end, Hurricane Hocevar strikes down in Alabama. Love him or hate him, the kid can drive. Carson for sure earned that one on Sunday, and if you were watching the post-race celebration, it was awesome, one of a kind, and totally Carson. Carson gets out of the car, and he's sitting on the side of it, and he's doing something, and takes the steering wheel off, and he starts driving the car while sitting on the side of it, while waving to all the fans. Many have compared the move very similar to when Dale Earnhardt back in the day unstrapped himself mid-race while under caution and wiped off the windshield of the car so he didn't need to come in the pit. All in all, a great, exciting race leading into an awesome celebration. Congratulations to Carson and everyone at Spire Motorsports. Final topic on discussions with Dave, part 1, stage lengths in the Cup race. Did we like it? I sure loved it. Definitely felt strange having the longest portion of the 3-stage races be stage 1, But as we were just mentioning, the intensity that the last two short stages, just 45 laps each, and once they get going green, I mean, it's, 41, 39 actual laps left in that stage. No one caring about saving gas. Think NASCAR is on the right track for this one. I hope they continue it in the final 3 superspeedway races of the year. Atlanta 2, second Daytona, and of course, second Talladega. And that wraps up Discussions with Dave, Part 1. Now to Paint Scheme of the Week. And this one has a little bit of a history twist to it. This week's paint scheme isn't anything crazy. It's actually an ARCA car that was just in this Talladega race. The Zero, driven by none other than Squirrel McNutt, in the Heat Wave paint scheme that he's been running recently on his climb into racing. The scheme features the large Zero on the side of the car, but in Greg Biffle numerals. But the coolest part about this car isn't the scheme. It is the same chassis that Sterling Marlin ran in the 01 Daytona 500. Yes, of course, that is the day we lost Dale Sr. And obviously a tough day for the sport. But as a NASCAR history buff, I thought it was so cool that that car is still racing at superspeedways. And yes, the day did not end as McNutt wanted to, gets caught in one of those big wrecks late in the race at Dega. Still, nonetheless, wanted to bring it up front. Now for NASCAR history time. Texas, the early years in IndyCar. When Bruton Smith unveiled the new D-shaped trioval at Texas Motor Speedway on April 6th, 1997, the track's steep 24-degree banking and relatively narrow racing surface immediately drew criticism. Many NASCAR Cup drivers voiced concerns after a crash-filled debut that highlighted the track's challenging layout. I am no iRacing whiz or good at video games, in all honesty. Every time I race at iRacing at Texas or in a video game, I'm sorry, I'm going through the D-shaped trioval, always hitting the wall. Enough about that, though. The most serious controversy came in 2001, when the Champ Car World Series made its first scheduled appearance there. During practice and qualifying, drivers experienced alarming physical symptoms, dizziness, blackouts, caused by the intense G-forces generated by the track's high speed and tight corners. The situation forced officials to cancel the race just after qualifying. Champ cars never returned to Texas. Meanwhile, the rival IndyCar series has competed at that speedway since the inaugural season in '97, so they figured it out. The first race for them was memorable in its own right, featuring a pit road altercation involving A.J. Foyt and a delayed result that wasn't officially declared until 24 hours later. With a grandstand capacity of over 154,000, Texas Motor Speedway remains one of the largest sporting venues in the U.S. Despite its name, it has no connection to Texas Worldwide Speedway, which operated in the 90s, for you diehards. And that wraps up NASCAR History Time. Now for Discussions with Dave, Part 2. One thing that we experienced this past weekend at Talladega, and I don't know if we'll ever see this again, or it's probably going to be a long time, 3 first-time winners in all 3 races. Andy J., first-time ARCA level, Corey Day, first-time O'Reilly, and Hocevar, first-time in the Cup Series. And if you watch all 3 series, or at least follow along with them, I mean, the wins by all 3 aren't surprises. They compete, and typically those 3 are towards the front in each of those series. Wanted to just briefly touch on that. I don't know when the last time 3 first-time drivers occurred in the same weekend. Definitely, It's a rare feat, and 3 great finishes in all of them. Moving right along, a guy that has gotten into the NASCAR world by pretty much just continuing his shtick, but more and more drivers are being asked about it, and Stephen A. Smith has dipped his foot into the NASCAR world, mainly just being a hater. I believe it was a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, and Stephen A. Smith on his radio show, who knew he even had a radio show, was discussing all-time greats in sports. Someone called in and said, "Hey, you haven't mentioned the king, Richard Petty." Stephen A. goes on his normal rant and went on to say, golfers and drivers are not athletes. If you can do the sport into your 60s and 70s, you are not an athlete. That is what Stephen A. said. And yes, I understand. For some people, and sometimes all publicity is good publicity, but Stephen A. has no clue what he's talking about. And yes, ever since I really became a diehard NASCAR fan, that's a question that people bring up. Are drivers athletes? Of course I believe they're athletes. These guys are going upwards of 200 miles an hour, inches of each other, in cars that are literally 130, 135 degrees. You put a regular guy in a situation like that, you put a football player in a situation like that, he's gonna crumble. And my last thought on this, and I do not typically agree with Joey Logano, but sometimes people say things to just stay relevant. And that's all I gotta say about that. And I'll be cordial right now. Mr. Stephen A., you want to discuss it in more detail and statistically? Let's do it. We'll love to have you on the show. And heck, I'll even come on your show if you want. Going back to my statement, all publicity can be good publicity. Enough with Stephen A. Moving right along, we've been talking about Daniel Dye a lot the last month, in all honesty. He gets suspended by NASCAR, gets reinstated, then resigns from Talladega Racing, and then the last 2 weekends we've seen Dye be competitive in the ARCA series. And one thing I did not expect to come out of this, Dye just made his Cup Series debut this past Sunday in Talladega in the 78 for Live Fast Motorsports, and Daniel brought it home 24th. Solid day for his debut in the Cup Series, especially at a track as crazy as Dega can be. We have mentioned it several times, but Talladega Racing CEO Chris Rice went on Sirius XM shortly after Dye got suspended and said, Dye, his father, they're like family. Then, of course, the rest unravels and Dye resigns, and Chris Rice says, we'll always have his back, yada, yada, yada. After the ARCA race on Saturday, Dye gets out of the car and says, yeah, it's been a while since I was in top equipment. First thing that came to my mind is, man, that is a big snub at Talladega Racing. Dye was just in Talladega Racing full-time in the O'Reilly Series last year, then, makes the transition to the trucks. Thought it would be pretty smoothly with how well Dye has shown success in the truck series before, but new manufacturer, of course, there's going to be growing pains, uphill battle. Just thought it was very telling with what we've seen from Talladega in the past. Dye has the opportunity to leave. He takes it and is making a lot with the opportunities since Talladega. In DWD Part 1, we were talking about how awesome and exciting the celebration that Carson Hocevar did after winning at Dega. Many, including myself, thought NASCAR might want to take a strict standing on driving on the side of the car by yourself it was definitely around pit road speed, but, if he slips and, a good chance foot or leg could get run over by the car and Don't want to bring up the unfortunate circumstance with Connor Zilic slipping after winning in Watkins Glen last year. Someone did post-race in the media center ask Carson about that. Carson goes right to the NASCAR executives and say, "Hey, Steve, is this banned?" And he goes, "No. Don't think it's going to be the last time we see Hocevar doing that celebration." One of the big stories around the garages this year is the lawsuit between Chris Gabehart and Joe Gibbs Racing. As we know, Gabehart is now at Spire Motorsports. Saw Gabehart at Bristol when I was there walking in the garages. I said on the show was really cool just to see him there, knowing what's going on. Obviously, Carson Hocevar, Spire Motorsports, just wins in Talladega. But a headline that I saw, which makes sense if you think about it, Joe Gibbs Racing uses Hocevar win as ammo in Gabehart lawsuit. Of course they would. Any good lawyer would, any bit of evidence that they have are gonna exploit that, right? That's their job. And unfortunately, in the end of some of these lawsuits, the only real winners are the lawyers. Just a small headline to add to the fuel to that fire, and we'll follow that more in depth as that news unravels. And that wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. We mentioned it in the intro. Now we bring our next guest on, fresh off the ARCA Series win in Talladega, Andy Jankowiak. Here's what Andy had to say. Super excited to bring our next guest back on the show, none other than Andy Jankowiak, fresh off the exciting win in Talladega. Congratulations on the win, Andy, and welcome back on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been surreal.
Yeah, gotcha. Hear you loud and clear now. Before we get into the Dega action, was just asking you. We start the weekend before in Kansas. Unfortunately, day ends early after spinning through the oil after Cletus blows an oil line. How were you guys able to hit the reset button so quickly, knowing you have Dega 1 week away after Kansas went south?
Well, yeah, no. So we actually we had some trouble in Phoenix too, and weren't able to get a good finish there. So, we kind of had 2 weeks where we felt like we should have finished a little better than we did, and then we got in trouble at Kansas when I sped on pit road, and that put us back behind some cars that we wouldn't have been behind, and I don't think we would have been behind that oil spill had I not done that. So I definitely wanted to make it up to the team a little bit, so that was on my mind, and hopefully that helped propel me to the big win here this week. So who knows? Maybe that's just how the universe works.
Yeah, that's racing sometimes, as you know. And then the Dega, you unload practice and qualifying. You qualified 10th in the 71. How is it feeling going into the race?
Yeah, so we didn't get much practice over there. It's Talladega still kind of has like the COVID schedule for some reason for the ARCA guys. So that was a bit of didn't really get a good feel for the car. But early on in the race, it seemed like we could suck up pretty good, but we weren't really good leading a pack. So I tried leading a pack early and then lost a bunch of spots. So we kind of spent the rest of the day just trying to get connected to the right cars and find our way back up to the front and capitalizing on restarts. And felt like we did a really good job of that all day. But it was more about trying to find cars I could follow than really lead. And I learned that in the first half of the race, and that helped us in the second half. Gotcha.
Appreciate those insights. Just like any ARCA race on a super speedway, several laps or several wrecks. I mean, how did you avoid those?
Well, it's funny you say. So I was doing the track walk, and Andy Seiss is always preaching to me to really be studying and work on little stuff. And I made a note of how much banking the apron had, and just kind of made a note of that. I actually remember standing both feet on the banking and on the track and thinking, if I did have to escape at some point, that would probably be an option to drive on the apron. And there was a crash right in the middle of 3 and 4, and I saw it pretty quick, and I just turned the wheel and drove on the apron and was able to scoot on by it. So, little details like that you just never know where they're going to help you. But, one of those dominoes, you needed to fall to, get to the end there, just one little thing. And, if we would have got caught up in that wreck, then none of this ever would have happened and we never would have known any different. But, just one little thing that went right in the race and kept us going.
Glad that detail helped you out in the end. I appreciate that insight as well. Not for you and your spotter to give up any secrets, but, going to the final restart, one lap to go, starting on the third row. What was your plan?
We talked a lot about it, actually, and we were trying to work with Cletus because me and him were kind of the odd man out at the front of the pack with the Nitro team up there and the Gibbs car having damage and Will Kimmel having some damage. So we kind of figured on hooking up with him. I thought he had the fastest car, and like I say, we were trying to find guys that could pull us. So I told him we were trying to work together, and we kept getting broken up because he was trying to run more like the middle line, and I didn't have enough speed to run the middle line. I'd have to block the bottom for the cars behind me, so I had to keep blocking the bottom, and that got us misaligned where it was slowing both of us down. So I communicated that to my spotter, and he communicated that to Cletus, and they sort of just came up with a plan that we were going to stick together, and TJ, my spotter, basically told him, like, we'll push you as long as you tow us past the car that we're trying to pass. And I've gotten hosed on those deals a million times, and you make those deals and people don't keep their word, but that's exactly what Cletus did, and he led the freight train there on the last lap, and I did my best to give him a good shove and get him going as good as we could, get on the back straightaway there, and away we went off into turn 3 with the head of steam.
Awesome. Yeah, just like you said, following Cletus on the outside lane, exiting, turn 3 or 4. Then he moves down low 3 wide, going through the tri-oval, trying to make a block there on Gus. And you're the first to the line. I mean, how did you make it happen there at the end? And what was your first initial reaction?
Yeah, so I think they must have been really coaching Cletus on side drafting, and I think he was trying to get in front of Gus Dean before Gus Dean could side draft him and pull him back, and they kind of just connected there. I actually thought for a second they spun, and because I ended up just higher on the track than them, and then TJ was in my ear saying come back down and side draft him, which is something me and TJ worked on a ton in the simulator to the point of redundancy, but it was this magic moment of just the perfectly timed side draft, and that's the moment that we prepared for and we were ready for it. So we came down, we pulled this quarter panel, and we took off.
Awesome. Appreciate those details, especially with you coming to the line for the win. I mean, actually, as I was saying before we started recording, after watching run the indoors, Turkey Derby, and then ARCA for a while, just so happy to see a driver from the Northeast in Victory Lane in the National Series. You mentioned in the post-race interview, I've done this before, I just always wake up. I mean, what were you feeling? And then to get that win in Talladega of all places?
Just kind of reflecting on all of it, with everything that came together over the last handful of years with Class Motorsports has been such a blessing, and it's just felt so unlikely that, stuff like this could happen this way. And it just kind of reflecting on that, and then just reflecting on the larger journey of just, everything before ARCA and all the people that helped me get here. And, it's just a lot, it's just 25 years of, working at it and not really knowing where things were going, and getting a break here and there, and just having things go right. And, you could have a million things go right and still, not be in a position like that to win a big race. And it was just awesome for me to be able to share that with my team, with my car owners, and Andy Seiss and Mike Dayton and Kevin LaPierre, but also, my Buffalo pit crew, like my Uncle Jake was, staggering tires on my go-kart 25 years ago, and he was my rear tire changer over the wall at Talladega last week. So that my mom was there, and she took me to the first go-kart race, and she was there in Victory Lane, and it's just it's just a really cool story, and kind of stuff that you never really figured was ever going to happen, and just see it all happen is really cool.
Gotcha. So happy for you to have that experience. You just mentioned your mom, your uncle doing it with family, and then also reflection. Growing up, I've heard of stories of your dad's unfortunate wreck at Stafford. I was unaware that the anniversary was this past weekend. What did that mean to you?
That day always comes and goes. It's actually Earth Day, so that day comes and goes, and it always does seem to fall on Talladega weekends. So he's always on our mind, but he's probably on our mind just a little bit more on a day like that. So, we come here for this weekend. It's always Spring Sizzler weekend, and that was the race. So, it's definitely on our mind, and we're always thinking about him, but. It's just pretty crazy, I guess, 30, it's actually, I think 36 years later now after that. But, we're always thinking about him, and I'm always racing for him, and my Uncle Tommy too. We just, like I said, I grew up in, I just grew up being a part of that family, and I just wanted to continue their legacy.
Awesome. That's great. I appreciate you talking on that. Saw the celebration on Talladega Boulevard Saturday night. What was it like for you, and how were you feeling Monday morning?
Not as bad as you probably think. It was had to drive home Sunday night,
Gotcha.
So we partied Saturday and then stayed for the race. I dropped my girlfriend off at the airport around 6 and had to drive home. Crew chief said, there's work to do Monday, so be in the shop. And I haven't been able to help much, but I in between phone calls and interviews, I sort of just kind of help the guys pick at stuff a little bit. But I am down here in the shop, at least helping a little bit, trying my best.
Gotcha. Just back at it. Heck yeah. You've mentioned Class Motorsports. You've been with them for some years now. They're a smaller team. What is it like winning with that group?
Well, in my mind, this whole team was kind of formed around, with me being at the driver. That was the whole idea when we formed the team. I was doing a little ARCA racing on my own and getting help from all the guys that are now the ownership side of Class Motorsports. And basically one of my sponsors asked me if I'd be more interested in just being a driver, if he wanted to start his own NASCAR team. And I didn't really have much business kind of owning race cars and driving at this level, just so that made a lot of sense for me. So it kind of started with this, with me kind of in the center of it as the driver. So I kind of feel like it's, for that reason, I probably have a little bit more connection to the team than maybe some of the drivers do to the teams they drive for. Cause I feel like, help build it a little bit and so it's, to be able to share that with all the people that believed in me enough to help me chase this and build this team around me, it makes it just extra special. And I don't know if a lot of drivers get to experience it that way, and this is just kind of a unique situation. So it's just really cool to kind of have the experience be that way. It's not like I showed up Monday morning and just kind of shook everyone's hand and jumped in the car. We all kind of helped build this together, and I was, we all just kind of had a part in it. So to be able to have it all come to a point where we go and win a big race like this together, it just means it's just a little bit extra special to share with them.
Yeah, all the hard work that everyone's putting in, definitely worth it for you and everybody there. Thanks for that insight. Getting into this past year's indoor season, I mean, Allentown, you were there Saturday night after running the test in Daytona on the ARCA side. Solid run there after starting from the back. AC saw you working real hard in the pits with the tire apron on, looking like a mad scientist there. But unfortunately, you go for a wild ride. I mean, glad you're okay. I still don't know how your crew plus the help from Paulie Jr. got you back out there. But how would you sum up the indoor season this year?
This indoor season was definitely a stinker. Definitely not my best work. Yeah, Allentown, we were doing the Daytona test that weekend, and that's where my focus really was. So, I couldn't really even think about a midget till about 4:00 on Saturday. So, we went down there and started last in that race and gave it a shot. But, actually, if we probably just could have kept it a little cleaner. I think we finished 5th, so it wasn't the worst showing, but regrouped a little bit, went over to Atlantic City, and kind of got dumped there on Friday, leading with 4-5 to go, and felt like we did everything right that day, and we were, I think we had a winning day, and it was just sort of taken from us. So feel like we proved we can do it. I don't think we lost any of our speed or anything like that. And then just Saturday, I think everything just kind of caught up with me. It just wasn't a good day. We qualified on the pole, but we had a terrible heat race and ended up having to rely on a provisional to get in the race, and probably still would have been all right. I mean, there wasn't much I could do to miss that crash. The kid in front of me just slammed on the brakes and turned right, and he was a row and a half ahead of me when he saw the wreck, and he stopped and turned, and I just jumped his right rear. I didn't even know what happened in the car. It was that fast, but you go watch the replay, you can kind of see how it all happened, but wasn't much I could do about that. But proud of my guys for digging. A lot of frustration probably there at that point from the day before. Just we were going to slam that thing back together and go back out no matter what. So we'll get back at it next year. Just hoping the Allentown weekend doesn't fall into Daytona test weekend this year.
Gotcha. Would love to see you out there in Allentown for both nights, and best of luck for the rest of the season, Andy. We'll see you at a local track soon, and really appreciate your time, and congratulations again, man. Really happy for you and that team.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya.
Hope you all enjoyed the talk with Andy. I sure did. Now for a new segment, Tire Diaries, Texas edition. The Cup Series is heading to Texas Motor Speedway, and Goodyear is bringing a familiar but new tire package to the Worth 400. While this specific intermediate track setup has already ran in Vegas, Kansas, and Darlington as of this year, marks the first appearance on a high-speed oval. The objective by Goodyear is consistency. By using a package that teams are already comfortable with, they hope to provide stable performance on the 1.5-mile track. Cup teams will have 10 sets for the weekend with 8 fresh sets for Sunday's 400-mile showdown. Now the drivers to look out for Texas, starting with the Truck Series. Brendan Jones running the 1 for Tricon. He's always quick in those Toyotas. Another Joe Gibbs O'Reilly driver dropping down for the trucks is William Sawalich. Kyle Busch is running the 7 for Spire. He's always a contender, as we know. Caden Honeycutt in the 11. Corey Heim won this race last year in the 11. Heim isn't in this one. Think Honeycutt's going to contend up there, right with Kyle Busch. Tanner Gray, another fast Toyota in the 15. Tyler Ankrum, he finished 4th in this one last year. His teammate Daniel Hemrick actually finished 2nd behind Heim. Both of those MHR trucks should be ones to look for. Colleague, the All-Star car 25, Parker Kligerman. So happy to have Parker back on the track. Can he get that Ram up into the top 5? Dawson Sutton, coming off a strong run at Bristol. Dawson was 9th last year in Texas. Can he bring it towards the top 10? I sure think so. Rackley War is fielding 2 trucks for Texas. Tony Breitinger will be in their second entry in the 27. Ross Chastain, another full-time Cup driver, hopping down in this one. And that's same for last week's winner, Carson Hocevar. He'll be running the 77 for Spire. A Truck Series veteran, happy to see back, is running the 62 for Halmar Friesen Racing, is Corey Roper. Ben Rhodes, 2-time series champ, was 6th in Texas last year. Be on the lookout for the 99. Last but not least, the 93 of Caleb Koster. Splash of Gas sticker will be debuting on that truck. Super excited for those guys. Drivers to look out for, O'Reilly. Start with the guy that won it last year, Kyle Larson. He'll be in the 88. Another full-time Cup driver jumping down is Connor Zilich. We know what he did in the O'Reilly car last year. And Zilich is fresh off an O'Reilly win in Bristol. Can he keep that going? Austin Dillon will be running the 3 for RCR as they enter 3 cars for the O'Reilly Series. And we'll keep going with the RCR teammates of Dillon for this one. That's Jesse Love, Austin Hill. We know what those guys bring to the track. Brent Cruz in that 19. I think he's another young driver that's going to get a win this year. Last year, Riley Herbst finished 3rd in the 19 in Texas. We'll stay on that Team Toyota trend. Brandon Jones in the 20 should be quick. And don't forget about Harrison Burton in that 24. Harrison finished 6th in Texas last year. Ryan Sieg is typically really quick. Remember a couple years ago, Sieg and Larson were neck and neck coming to the line with Larson just edging him out. But Ryan Sieg is typically quick in the 39 in Texas. Another Toyota can't forget about is the guy that finished 2nd last year in the 54. That's Taylor Gray. Also, Parker Redslov, Sam Mayer should also be among the quick Chevys. Now, drivers to look out for, Cup Series from Texas. Start off with 2 guys that had solid runs last weekend. Unfortunately, he spun out right before the checkered flag. And we'll start off with Eric Jones. He was 5th in Texas last year. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 47. He was 6th in Texas, as crazy as that sounds. Can Ricky keep that momentum going from Dega? On the Ford side, Joey Logano won the Texas race last year. His Team Penske teammate Ryan Blaney was 2nd. Can we see Joe Gibbs' Toyota teammates of Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and maybe 2311 Toyota Tyler Reddick can get into the mix? Can't forget about those guys. Then, of course, on the Chevy side, Ross Chastain finished 2nd. Kyle Larson was 4th. He's always up front there. Everybody's amigo Daniel Suarez has been towards the front in most of these races. Daniel was 10th last year. Can he get his Spire car up any farther? Last but not least, the guy that won it last weekend, Hurricane Hocevar. Carson won his first Truck Series race in Texas. Can he bring the momentum from Dega? I sure think so. Now for Fast Davey's bets. Truck, Daniel Hemrick finished 2nd in Texas last year. Top 5 for him is plus 450. O'Reilly's side, take the hot hand of Taylor Gray. Top 5 is plus 200 for him. Cup Series, I got 2 options for you. As just mentioned, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished 6th in Texas last year. A top 10 for Ricky right now is plus 900. I think that's free money. Another good option, Ross Chastain. P2 last year in the Lone Star State. He's plus 425 for a top 5. And 165 for a top 10. Now for trivia answer time. This episode's question is, who was the first driver to get his first and only Cup Series win at Talladega? Hint, he won the inaugural race there in 1969, the Talladega 500, and never won again. The answer is, driving a Dodge, Richard Brickhouse. Now for the predictions for Texas Truck. Believe it's time for Honeycutt. Think the Texan gets it done in his home state. O'Reilly, I don't think Larson will have the fall off like he did in Bristol. Give me Kyle Larson on Saturday. Give me Denny Hamlin for the Cup Series to get back to victory lane. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Hope everyone has enjoyed this episode, plus the interview with Andy J. Till next time, everybody, Splash of Gas out.